Good afternoon, ladies and gents. Welcome to Crypto Chat UK. I've got an article from the 2nd of Feb that if you haven't seen, I want to go through. And it's about, well, I'll read the article to you. And it's my bank app is better than Bitcoin for payments, and that's fine. It gives some great points about, obviously, ease of use, merchants and so forth, but also gives some other reasons why cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin have different reasons for being valuable. But let's go through the article anyway. So it basically says the cryptocurrencies are faster and cheaper narrative has fizzled out as banks have embraced digital payments in recent years, improving customer experience and usability. Sure, buying a beer with a QR code may give you a warm and fuzzy feeling, but isn't the problem Bitcoin solves. It isn't the problem Bitcoin solves. It is much more than that. So, banks go digital. An all too common narrative a few years back was that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies would outcompete the likes of Visa and MasterCard with speed and cheaper transactions. Won't somebody think of the merchants was an often repeated argument in 2014 and 2015 because credit card companies typically charge around 3% service fees to process payments. Very true, they charge fees, obviously different ones for different type of payment cards. Obviously credit cards charge a little bit more. Fast forward a few years and merchants haven't budged, nor are they jumping on payment focused coins either like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Dash, etc. So why didn't they stick it to Visa and switch to crypto? So why didn't they stick to Visa and switch to crypto? And that's a good question. So they make a good point here. Digital fiat payments have actually become not only more ubiquitous, but also much easier and cheaper. Though the latter is partially due to costs being offset by selling customer information to advertisers, which is a topic for another article. Of course it is, yeah. So obviously they sell you information, of course they do. There's a lot of that goes on. That's something for the blockchain as well, which you might have already seen. Banks have indeed upped their game as far as user friendliness goes with mobile apps, contactless payments, in-app integration, you name it. In fact, it's never been easier to part ways with your money than it is today. Of course, there is a lot of things. This is one of the things where people say about, real cash in your pocket and having real notes. Well, even with fiat cash, even with our current policies, eventually it is going to go online anyway. It is going to become digital in some way. Okay, regrettably, centralized is part of the big issue, the trust type stuff, which it does talk about this here. So my bank card beats your favorite coin. My card given to me by my bank is tied to an app on my phone, so I can check my balance and track all my balance and transaction history. I was impressed when Bitcoin wallets did this 6 years ago, but banks have caught up fast and are, let me just turn this off, caught up fast and are beating cryptocurrencies in this arena. The card stroke app works seamlessly together, enabling contactless payments in the store, on public transport, and pretty much anywhere. Visa and MasterCard are accepted, which is literally everywhere. I mean, obviously, Visa and MasterCard are accepted, well, around the world, aren't they? There's not many places that don't these days, and it's become even more so. Obviously, contactless payment, you've got your contactless on cards, you add, and you still have like a little thing you can put on your phone. You've even got apps now that work, and that's going to continue to be developed, of course, for fiat and probably for cryptos as well. So sure, discussing Bitcoin is fun and all, but sometimes I just want a quick coffee without proselytizing Bitcoin to a barista who obviously doesn't care about censorship resistance and decentralized consensus protocols. I should all mention that my bank has excellent customer support. It knows who I am and will block anyone else from using my account with the press of a button on my smartphone. My bank will refund me any money lost due to fraud, which is very reassuring, unlike that easy feeling of possibly sending Bitcoin to the wrong address by mistake. Now, that's an important point. I've said this before. You do get in the way with the banks, obviously, reassurance of protection if fraudulent activity occurs. It's much trickier in the crypto market. I think things are going to be improving security-wise, but you are basically, certainly at the moment, completely responsible for your own security when it comes to making sure you're storing your cryptos right and using them. Obviously, you're more vulnerable if you leave your cryptos on a coin exchange. Then you are going to be more vulnerable. Of course, you are. Very silly. But if you keep them safe and secure in hardware wallets and other wallets that you trust, then you should be pretty okay. But you've got to be careful nobody gets your details. But that's the same with anything. Whether it's fiat cash or whatever. But obviously you have them protections with banks if fraudulent activity occurs. So what's more, I can send money instantly to my friends for absolutely zero fees. And why wouldn't it be zero? My bank is using a good old database after all, not your blockchain that takes minutes to confirm. In other words, big blocks, small blocks, medium-sized blocks, none of this can compete when it comes to the speed and efficiency of a centralized database for payments. My bank app even has a QR code option for in-person payments if I'm feeling extra Bitcoin-ish. So now it talks about the problem that Bitcoin solves. It says Bitcoin, however, wasn't meant to compete with Visa or PayPal. Digital payments were already gaining traction when Bitcoin spawned from the 2008 financial crisis. Of course they were. Developments were going on. We always said that eventually, forgetting cryptocurrencies, eventually it will all be digitally done and recorded, and transactions will be done that way. So, we always knew that the fiat currencies, the central banks and that, were developing ways to pay. This wasn't what cryptocurrencies was necessarily solving, the actual finer points in that way. Although that is being worked on and potentially could and will, more than likely, pick up in pace in development. Certainly will. Commerce on the internet has come to rely most exclusively on financial institutions serving as trusted third parties to process electronic payments. While the system works well enough for most transactions, it still suffers from the inherent weakness of the trust-based model. Obviously, trustless-based model, which is basically cryptocurrency, certainly Bitcoin, is clearly a better option. So the trust-based model of the fiat currencies and the way we do our structure at the moment, is weak. And if you look at that, that's on the Bitcoin white paper by Satoshi Nakamoto. Bitcoin was instead designed as an alternative to the central bank system that has historically abused the public's trust. Of course they have. One hyperinflationary episode is all it takes, and the money becomes worthless on the paper it's printed on. Obviously, I think it was cotton before, it's now plastic. But anyway, splitting hairs there. Bitcoin's monetary policy, on the other hand, is completely transparent. Its supply and inflation rate is known, and it's the hardest form of money to ever exist. Yes, even more than gold, because mathematical scarcity beats perceived scarcity. You got to think about that. That's what I talk about. Always talk about the maths work. You genuinely have to think about this, guys. If you haven't already, if you haven't looked at it, look at it a bit more closer. Don't forget, none of us on YouTube are certainly financial advisors. Well, most of us aren't. And we do look at this very carefully. Well, certainly I do, but you need to as well. But certainly just educate yourselves if you don't know it already. Get out there and get it looked at. It is very important, and then you can decide what you're going to do. These attributes make it a money technology that has never existed before, and more importantly, removes the need to trust any intermediary. In an article titled "The Problem That Bitcoin Solves," economist and the Bitcoin Standard author explains, Paul Krugman seems mistakenly to assume Bitcoin is competing with consumer payment networks like Visa or PayPal. That is not what Bitcoin is best suited for. Rather, Bitcoin is an international settlement network, one that competes with the central bank settlement systems that are the foundation upon which networks like Visa or PayPal depend. That's very important. That's on a very fundamental level of transactions around the world. The borderless aspect of it, the trustless aspect of it, amongst other things. Therefore, the payments for coffee on the blockchain narrative is dying, because paying for stuff and accepting digital currency today isn't a problem for people. So it certainly isn't. I mean, you could apply fast digital payments, either with fiat cash and cryptocurrencies, as quick as you want, I'd guess, and as sharp as you want. It's all about adoption, really. If they're already comfortable with the fiat currencies and general day-to-day payments are already there, then it's very tricky for anything else to take over anyway. Development has to happen, adoption has to happen, and so forth. But luckily, for cryptocurrencies, that's not just what it's about. So certainly early days, it's not what it's about. It's more of the fundamentals around the world, and certainly on a financial basis with the big banks and so forth. However, the public is also slowly realizing why Bitcoin isn't going away, particularly as publications like Time Magazine release articles titled "Why Bitcoin Matters for Freedom," and places like Venezuela are demonstrating how Bitcoin is literally saving lives. Now, don't know much about this. What it's saying here, it's showing obviously a somebody mining Venezuela. This is how one of my friends back in Venezuela is surviving. Yes, he's got some gear there. Well, you know, very good. Get stuck in. So way to do it. That's not to say that payments aren't important. This and other use cases will be built as apps harnessing the trustless Bitcoin blockchain, example Lightning Network, but they're secondary to what's really at stake here in an increasingly authoritarian and cashless fiat system. Financial sovereignty. That's what we're talking about here. Financial sovereignty. Of course, in a cashless fiat system, if they put it all digitally in a centralized way, and we don't have anything to compete with that, or we don't have anything to take over, so we can have a bit more control and a bit more sovereignty of our finances, then we could be putting ourselves in a very precarious situation. And this Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency in general, the blockchains, they do solve that issue, and it is huge. It is bigger than we realise. But anyway, I wanted to just quickly show you that article. I think it was a wonderful article to have a look at. Definitely gets the old grey matter thinking. Of course it does. Now, don't forget, guys, if you do like this video, please hit the like button. I will be on soon for some more videos. And if you haven't subscribed already, definitely hit the subscribe button. If you haven't hit the notification bell as well, if you are subscribed, hit that notification bell. Some more great information coming to you soon. I am working hard on it, and I will be on very shortly. Take it easy, guys.